Anson, why don't you break the news?
Hey, listen, Carlton Davis, everybody was crying that we had to bring this guy back, a guy that's never played more than 82% of games in a season, and he got $20 million.
Good for him.
But he wasn't, in my eyes, and most people around the NFL's eyes, as good as this kid that we just got. And what he brings to the table is a shut-down corner with great ball skills.
You might want to say his name.
Mr. DJ Reed. Okay, I always want to say EJ and EJ Speed. There's a whole bunch of.
Well, I thought when you guys told it to me, I was like, DJ Reader. Yeah, I know. We signed him
We
last
got
year.
two DJ
Okay,
Reeds.
cool. We got
That
DJ
will be
Reader
confusing,
again.
my friend.
But
DJ
DJ Reed,
Reed.
let's talk about him, Maz. How you feel about this guy? I know you like him.
I like him because you know where he's from.
Hey,
he's from the
from
factory in
Jersey.
Jersey.
Hey,
He's
forget
one of the
about it.
Jets. You know what? He is one of the best cover corners in the league, albeit a little short. 28 years old, so you get a couple of years break. Then Carlton Davis. Carlton Davis, of course, went to the Patriots about an hour ago. 3 years, $60 million. He got 32 and a half of that guaranteed. So, you know, the Lions weren't going to pay that. He wanted to hit the market. You saw his quotes for the last bunch of days saying, look, I'm not going to do what I did last year. I'm not going to settle. I'm going to get my money. And you know what? It all started with J.C. Horn, which is about an hour and a half ago, who signed a record-breaking deal for cornerbacks, defensive backs. He got 4 years, $100 million.
Crazy.
So then Carlton Davis gets 3 years, $60 million, and DJ Reed gets 3 years, $48 million here with the Detroit Lions. He's going to fit in good. He'll be cornerback 1. Cornerback 2 will be, of course, Agent 0, Terry and Arnold. We hope Ennis Rakestraw is going to be good. Amik Robertson coming back from the injury. We loved him. I think we did all right. I'm happy with this signing. Very happy.
Yeah, Carlton Davis, I think, owes the Lions a big thank you and maybe a percentage of his new signing because when Carlton Davis got here, he was not a premier cornerback when he was at Tampa Bay, mostly because he was a fish out of water, right? They had him playing zone defense when he's a man-to-man guy. And when he got here, he proved he's a man-to-man guy and played very well in a Lions uniform because of last year, he getting paid, which is nice for him, but if anything, this is a wash, right? It's a 1-for-1, except you get him for less money. So I'll take DJ Reed. I like this. He's fast. He's going to play in the system that is developed Calvin Shepard, because we know the defensive system is pretty much going to be the same.
You saved $12 million in 3 years.
That's a lot of money.
It's $4 a
Nothing
year.
to shake a stick at, Maz.
$4 million a year that you could give to somebody else, and hopefully they could find some other. Because I was starting to get worried. Be honest with you. And we'll get into my worries later because everyone knows how I feel.
The timeliness of the news we got over the weekend, this helps a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the Myles Garrett signing, it wasn't about the money. That's what he said, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't about the money.
Yeah, well, it ain't about the winning either, Miles.
Oh, he won.
That.
Right.
He won.
And there's that
He might not be winning, but he won.
$40 million a year.
That's great, but I mean, you're going to put your life on the line for a team that won't put anything on the line for you. And the people that feel bad that the Lions didn't get Myles Garrett, I just want you to think about it this way. We're going to pay Aiden Hutchinson, and it's going to be around $35 to $40 million a year. Like, that's just the way the DN market has set itself. Do you really think we had it in the budget to put another $40 million guy down the line from him? That's $80 million on two ends. Yeah. That would never fly.
I just thought they were one player away, and I would have spent the money to get a player of his caliber. But it's
but then
not
you're
not
not able to keep other players.
I get it, and
So
I was willing to let some players walk to get that guy because I still believe they're one player away. They got a lot of depth on this team because that depth got them to the playoffs in 15 wins because they missed 22 players on defense.
It's still crazy
on
when
the
you say it.
on the injured reserve. 22 players, yet they still won 15 games, which is amazing. But the rest of the league is improving as well, and we'll see how all these signings come around. There are a lot of them, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the NFL broke Twitter today, but broke X. Anson says it wasn't that. He said
Schefter's got to be so pissed about X.
They
being
all
down
were.
Today
Oh, yeah.
of all
They
days.
all were.
Oh, yeah,
It was like chaotic.
Yeah.
It was chaotic.
Do they talk about football on Blue Sky?
Ha!
Never heard of that.
I don't know.
You gotta use
That
Truth
barbaric
Social.
sport.
Truth Social.
You gotta use Truth Social.
That barbaric sport.
But yeah, I mean, what does this add to the defense, right? You got your bookend cornerbacks now, like you said, Terrion Arnold. You're going to get another year of Rakestraw. Hopefully, he improves from what he did this
better.
year. It's tough
He just has to set his
tough
foot
to
on
get-
the field and he'll
tough
be
to
better.
get worse, right?
Yeah. He was a 0.
But you go back to 2 years ago, and the Lions' defensive backfield was arguably the worst of all time. I mean, the numbers indicate that they could have been the worst of all time. So to flip that whole thing, rip the carpet out last year, lay down some new stuff, and you're going to lose Carlton Davis, but you immediately replace that. Very happy with what Brad Holmes is doing with the back end of this defense.
Yeah, and it's undervalued. You know, we look at Carlton Davis. This is, again, a guy, 59 to 82% of games played in all 7 years he's been in the league. You can't have that, especially when you're signing Davenport back and you're constantly going in with guys like Emmanuel Mosley. You shift away from a guy that has a perennial issue in staying healthy to a young guy at 28 years old that's got speed, that's got hands.
He's little.
But the other he is a little bit, he is smaller, but I think a big thing that needs to be pointed out here is that he knew where he was going. He knew the defense he was joining, and I'm sure he could have sat out on the market and gotten his $20 million a year. But he made his choice. And
You think Aaron Glenn had anything to do with this? You think, hey, if I know you're going to leave the Jets.
Interesting.
I think you'd fit well in Detroit.
Interesting.
I could see him having that conversation.
Yeah,
As
why
we
not?
know, when Aaron Glenn left, it was, yay, we love Aaron Glenn. Like, woo, go Aaron Glenn. I hope you do great.
Great thoughts.
When Ben Johnson left, it's like,
Different
man,
story.
this guy is Benedict Ben Johnson. Get him out of here. But I could see Aaron Glenn doing the Lions a solid, being like, listen, I know you're not going to sign here. Here's the system that you can go play in. They're going to run the same system next year. I think you're a perfect fit. Go sign there.
If he loved them, he would have signed them.
What if,
Well, you're not wrong in that.
Yeah, yes, he is. First of all, Maz is always wrong. Second of all, no, it's the ownership that's going to dictate whether they sign him or not. A coach can love somebody up and down the field, but if Woody doesn't like him, and isn't this the same dude that didn't sign a guy based on his Madden score?
Yeah, I'm
So
afraid
if he's
Woody-
listening to his
Woody's
son
kind-
about
yeah.
Madden, I don't think he's listening to his coach about.
We
something.
haven't accused Jets ownership of being great or smart in quite a few decades.
Well, they signed Aaron Rodgers, so you know they're stupid.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I don't know whether Aaron Glenn loves him or not, but I will say I think that you're right. A conversation was had. And when you're deciding your next 3-4 years of your life and how much you're going to get paid and whether it's going to be a fun time while you're there, nobody better to ask than your new coach,
Right.
who obviously isn't his coach anymore. But I like that. That's an interesting take.
It's just a feel-good story that I made up. So, like, I hope
Hey,
it's true, but I don't know.
You made me feel
Makes
good.
sense, though.
We'll
It
go
just makes
with
you
it.
love Aaron Glenn even more.
We'll go with it.
Makes
But
sense.
over the weekend, when you see Myles Garrett and Pete, did we even put that up yet?
Yeah, hang on, buddy.
Myles
There you go.
Garrett averaging $40 million a year, $123.5 million guaranteed, and that was the most until Josh Allen got his, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But Myles Garrett, of course, staying with Cleveland. He wants to go from Cleveland to Canton, but man, that's
you
a,
and Joe Thomas.
that's
I mean,
his
granted-
thing.
Granted, it's not that far of a drive, if that's
Yeah.
what he means, but
Yeah.
the bust is not going to happen. if he's
But
there.
but when you hear
Thinks
that,
it works by proximity.
Yeah, right? He's like, if I stay close, I can get it. Osmosis.
when you hear that, and then you hear the Lions, and I knew this was happening. I knew they were going to re-sign Marcus Davenport. Of course, they always give their injured players 2 years to get the injuries settled. Remember Emmanuel Mosley, give him 2 years. And let's give Marcus Davenport 2 years. The guy can't stay on the field. And I know the injury he had last year was a new injury. It wasn't one that reoccurred. But you sign him, and it just, I don't know, it gives me a stomach ache.
Tom.
That's all.
Tom Masaway. Tom.
Yeah.
Tom.
Yeah.
What did they sign him for?
$5 million.
No.
$4.75 million.
3.75.
4.7.
But what hits the books?
I don't care.
Outside of the incentives, $1.75 million.
I know. They
If
give him
you're
all
gonna
these.
cry over getting a professional
not gonna-
defensive
No,
end
I'm not
for
crying.
less than $2 million.
No, I'm not
I don't know
crying.
what to tell you.
No, I'm not crying.
It's a fine deal. He's not the guy that's going to change the game. I think we all know that. But if you can sign a backup player, a guy that's going to maybe take 5 snaps a game for less than $2 million, you go do it. It's a body for $2 million.
And if he hits his incentives, great signing.
Right.
That's it. It's a no-lose signing for the Lions.
I agree.
That's why I don't get too worked up with it. Now, the fact that they let Z go,
I haven't even gotten to that yet.
that was very interesting because I put out a video on our Twitter and on YouTube over the weekend, and people love to attack me for some reason just when I'm
Why do
spitting
they?
facts.
I don't like that, yeah.
And I don't understand because all I was saying was this move by Brad Holmes, letting go of Zadarius Smith, just makes you think that there's something else coming. Because
Exactly.
you're not
I
going to
agree.
go into the season with Davenport and Hutchinson as just your bookends. You're not. There's got to be something else that he has up his sleeve, whether it's a free agent that they have their eye on, a trade piece in Trey Hendrickson that they may go after, or somebody that they're really high on in the NFL draft that's going to be, all right, we're going to have a rookie rotational piece. I just feel Brad Holmes doesn't let the well get this dry without having a way to fill it back up.
I 100% agree. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, he's got something else coming that we just don't know about. He has to.
I liked having Zadarius Smith here. Here's a guy that had a smile on his face, bought into the Detroit culture, 100%. I just thought he was a great
Dating cash
teammate.
doll.
I thought he was a great teammate, and I like what he brings, especially when a healthy Aiden Hutchinson comes back. I thought he could really regain some of his form, and I know he had 7 sacks last year, 4 here with the Lions. I thought he could have done at least that or even more. And he wasn't that expensive. They didn't want to pay him the $2 million bonus. So they let him walk. It was just a guy that I was fond of. But they did bring back Derek Barnes, which I'm happy about. I thought he was destined for the Jets. I thought for sure Aaron Glenn was going to entice Derek Barnes to go on over to the Jets. But they get DB, and I hope he can rebound from his injury. It's another injured player that they're re-signing. And you have to hope all these injured players can play up to their performance. Otherwise, it's a waste.
Yeah,
That's all.
But I was watching the morning show this morning. Shout out Wake Up Woodward. And Flannel Sam was having the same thing. Oh, why don't you just sign all the injured players? And someone brought up a great point in the chat. Okay, so let's cut Aiden Hutchinson. He's injured. Let's cut J-Mo. He was been injured.
Right.
Goff was out for a
Those
little
aren't
bit of
great
time.
points.
Let's get rid of him.
Those aren't great points.
It's football, Maz. They're all injured at some point.
I know. But these are guys that are constantly injured.
For me, there's 2 things with Zadarius Smith. One, looking back, and one looking forward. From what the reports say, these guys made a call to Cleveland right after Hutchinson got hurt. But we didn't see a deal happen for over a month, right? And they pinched pennies getting him. They made Cleveland pay. We only had to give up really late draft
5th
picks.
and 6th round pick.
So to me, what it kind of says is that he was just a stopgap and not a player that they were truly after. They clearly see the money that they're saving by cutting him before the deadline as something that, as you said, Ricky, can help these guys cook. It has to be in Dan and Bradley trust. Looking at and micromanaging every single one of their moves is just going to make you crazy. The fact is this is a team that has gone from the bottom of the entire NFL to a 15-2 record last year. So I know they're going to come up with something. It's surprising, the Davenport is like getting Emmanuel Mosley 2 years in a row after the guy doesn't play anything for you. But to your point, less than $2 million, it's free.
It's like people complaining about switching out your car mats. It's a part of the car, but it really doesn't mean much, right?
That's funny.
I spent $5 on them and they look fine, so I'm going to use these. That's what Davenport is. He's the nice car mat that you could throw in your car that takes care of it. And, so when people get too hell bent over a $2 million player, it's like, man, we're getting pretty granular with this. The guy's making $2 million.
Certainly. So where do you think our biggest need is next? Is it still at,
DE?
It is at
No,
edge.
it's still, well, I think even more now, right? The fact that you lose a Zadarius Smith,
Well, but-
it's even more now.
But where were we last year? these were our starters, Hutchinson and Davenport.
And while everybody was healthy the first
We had
5 weeks of
O'Neal.
the season, this was a top 5 defense in the entire NFL.
So they have to make a move to get a third before the draft, in my opinion, because if there's anything that we learned from last year is that 2 is not enough.
Hey, Sam Darnold just signed with the Seahawks.
Did he?
3 years, $110.5 million. He got $55 million guaranteed. So what do we got?
Seahawks love paying crusty
So
quarterbacks.
3 years.
They love paying crusty
So
quarterbacks.
he got what? 30 and change per year. 34,000 million
You
per
know what
year.
that
Grabbing
means?
it right
Danny
now, guys.
Dimes time in
Yep.
Minnesota.
Perhaps. He's been looked at by the Colts and a bunch of other teams as well. And Aaron Rodgers, little by little, it was going to be the Giants. Now I think the Giants are going to get Russell Wilson.
Yep.
I think Aaron is going to go to Pittsburgh and team up with, we haven't even talked about
DK?
DK Metcalf
Right.
going over there.
And George Pickens.
Well, George Pickens is an idiot.
Well, of course. That's what I mean.
Talented
That's what I
idiot,
mean.
a
That's
very
what I
talented
mean.
idiot.
All I know is if you're going tag team match with wide receivers, those two you're going to take. Those guys are physical,
guys.
beastly wide receivers. And there you go, Adam Schefter on X, which is finally working. Sources, former Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold reached an agreement today on the 3-year, $110.5 million contract.
I love
$55
the
million
Photoshop pics.
guaranteed.
That's my signs. I love it.
The Seattle successor to Geno Smith.
Yes.
Gino went to the Raiders this weekend for a third-round pick.
Anson, I don't want to do this to you because I love you. You're my brother. But early this season, I was told Sam Darnold was going to save the Vikings, that he was the quarterback of the future,
No.
that he put that team on the map.
Not by me. I just told you and others like Neil Rule that you guys were sleeping on the Vikings.
And you know why?
They were better than the Bears, and that Sam Darnold was a completely serviceable quarterback.
The reason I was sleeping on the Vikings is because Sam Darnold is not a good quarterback.
Well,
he
and
is
sure,
fool's gold.
but they still had a hell of a season. They still won double-digit games. And if you think about where Sam Darnold was a year ago, wondering where he could even get snaps, because otherwise he was a shoo-in for a backup, and now he's a 9-digit man.
Yep.
Boy, I'd be pissed off if I were Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, now you got Sam Darnold, and then you know who backs him up? Sam Howell.
People loved Howell.
Listen, Darnold's going to get the ball downfield more than Geno Smith did. And what you see,
I don't know
what
about that.
Justin Jefferson, everybody wrote them off in fantasy drafts because he had Sam Darnold. He had a very, very fine year. And a guy named Jordan Addison did just fine with Sam Darnold, too. I'm not worried about JSN. JSN put himself on the map last year. Coming out of the draft, I thought that he was the best. I don't know why people were talking about QJ, but I'm not worried about him. I'm more worried about who the hell is going to get those guys the ball in Pittsburgh.
Well, can I ask you something? Weren't most of those games you're talking about indoors?
Sure.
And now he's outside in Seattle where there's a lot of wind, rain, and things. So good luck, Sam.